In this example, we will look at input and output in a little bit of detail. This is a very introduction to input and output using cin and using cout. So you may be familiar with these or you may not. This program, we start out with some existing code. So we have the pound includes. These are the compiler directives, which I'll mention one more time. These are libraries of function prototypes so that we can use functions like cin and cout inside our program. We have our main program here. I've already declared 4 variables that are type double: length, width, area, and perimeter. And we are going to use cin to input the values for the length and the width. And then we're going to compute the area and the perimeter, and we'll write those to the screen using cout. The bottom part of the program has some things that you may not recognize, like printf and scanf. We'll talk about those in just a little bit, but first I want to go ahead and add the code to show you how to use cin and cout. Alrighty, to begin, let's just write a message to the screen. So we'll use our cout statement, and whenever you enclose something with double quotes, then it's called a string constant. So we just want to write some information out. And I'm just going to write program to compute the area and perimeter. And I'm going to stop right here and show you that I could continue to write the rest of the stuff that I want to write here. But if I want to go to another line because this is getting too long, then I can stop with a double quote here to terminate this string constant. That whole thing is a string constant. And I can just hit enter, and I can put another insertion operator down here, and I can continue my output on a separate line. So let's do that. Program to compute the area and perimeter, and here we have double quote of a rectangle. Okay, so you can extend this across several lines if you want to. And since this is the end of what I want to write out, I'm going to put an end line here and then close that with a semicolon. So an end line just means that when we print out this entire sentence, we will go to the next line on the screen. So we'll not leave the cursor right there after the period. It'll go to the new line. Okay, I'm just going to line those up a little bit. So the cout statement, whenever you use cout, then you have the insertion operator pointing to the left, then whatever item that you want to write, and in this case we're closing it here. The second item that I want to write is this continuation, this other string constant, but since it's a separate thing, I have to use a additional insertion operator here. So for every item that you're outputting, just put this insertion operator between them and you're good to go. And finally, here's the insertion operator again, and then we do an end line. All right, so point being, you can extend this cout statement over several lines. You terminate it finally by using the semicolon. Now, let's move on and let's use cin. So we're going to use cin for input and another insertion operator pointing to the right. So whenever you're using cin, the insertion operator points to the right. When you're using cout, it points to the left. All right, now we want to what we want to do is to read in the the length and the width. And we have the length and we have the width up here as variables. So it's very easy to do. We just type in length and then another insertion operator, width, and then semicolon. If you're using a cin, then that indicates that you're typing information on the keyboard and there is no end line. End line is associated with cout, not with cin. All right, now it occurs to me that I need to let the operator of the program know what I'm expecting from this cin statement. So let's put another cout statement here explaining what we want them to input. Okay, so we have our insertion operator, double quote, please enter the length and width of the rectangle. Okay, so now we're giving some instructions that will show up on the screen so that we will know, hey, it's time to enter those two numbers. So let's terminate that with an end line. Okay, so now then we can see this message on the screen, and then we can type in the length and the width. So very easy to do with CN. Now after we have typed in the length and the width, let's go ahead and compute the area and the perimeter as I've shown. We have the variables for that. Okay, so area is just equal to the length times the width. So that's one calculation. And the perimeter is equal to 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Okay, and we terminate that with a semicolon. All right, so, and I do have to type it correctly. Okay, so now we have imported or read in the length and the width. We've calculated the area and the perimeter. So now let's output all of our results. I'll put a comment here, output the results. And I can't type, so you'll see this over and over as in my videos, so my typing is not very good. Anyway, output the results. Okay, now to output the results, I'm going to use cout, of course. Okay, so let's do cout, and let's identify what they are. And so let's put double quote, length is equal, and then the actual variable length, followed by an end line. So each of these will go on a separate line. Okay, cout the width is equal to, and the variable width, end line, and continuing the area. Area is equal to the variable area, end line, and finally the perimeter. So double quote, perimeter, perimeter is equal to, and the variable perimeter with an end line. Now, that completes this little program. And what I want to do here, I know we've got some other stuff that's showing up down here that I'll explain very soon, but I'm going to interject here a system pause. And that's because I'm running on a Windows machine. I'm running Microsoft Visual Studio on Windows, so I can do this. But if you're using any other environment, Linux, Unix, or Apple, then this will not work. So let's put the comment here, Windows only. So you'll need to use whatever equivalent technique that your operating system supports. And this just means that my program is going to temporarily stop or pause at this location, and I'll only see everything that's happening up above. Afterwards, I can continue just by hitting the enter key, and I can get the rest of the program. So let's see the results that we get just from this first part of the program. So I'm going to compile it, and then we will run it. So I will start the compile. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the build succeeded as well. It shows up here. So if you're using Visual Studio, this is what it will look like. Now, let's run the program. So I can run it by hitting the F5 function key or clicking this little green triangle. The output window appears. So here is what the program is printing out. So let me position it here so you can see the code. And let's remove this Solution Explorer window here so we can see everything. All right, so the output in the output window programmed to compute the area and perimeter of a rectangle. So that comes from the first cout statement. And then we have the prompt, plays into the length and width, so you see that. And we have the cursor blinking right there. Okay, so the cursor it's waiting on us, or the program's waiting on us to enter something. So let's type in 5 and 4. So we have the length is 5 and the width is 4. I'll hit enter. And then here's the output. So this output comes from those cout statements there. So the length is 5, the width is 4, So multiply those to get 20, and the parameter is equal to 18. So this press any key to continue, that's a result of that system pause line that I put in right here. Okay, so I'm just going to stop the program here and let me explain the other parts. So let me close this window. Now, if we look further down, then here are alternate techniques that you can use. And if you've had a C programming course, then you might have seen these instead of cin and cout. Printf is a formatted print. So you can use that to write information to the screen as well. This \n is the same thing as an end line. It sends the cursor to the next line. If you want to input information, an alternate way is to use the scanf_s. Then you'll see it's kind of complicated. You have to put a lot of special symbols. So if I want to read in the length and the width, then I need to specify this stuff here. Okay, so that %lf goes with length, and this other %lf goes with width, and we have to include these ampersands in front. So look at all the special characters that are involved. But that's an alternate way to do it. So given that you can input data using printf and scanf, I'm just repeating the calculation here for area and perimeter. And then here's a long, complicated output statement, printf, which also will print out the same information as we did above. We have length and width and perimeter and area. So compare, look at the input for cin up here and compare that to the scanf that's used for input here. And in my opinion, the cin is more straightforward and less error prone, but they do both work. Also, there's a lot of extra formatting in the printf statement, which you'll get to later, but you can see the printf is pretty complicated too. So again, if you want to use printf, it works, but you might choose the cout method because it's also simpler to use. Now, let's run the program again, and we'll do the first part with the cin and cout, and we'll see the second part with printf and scanf. Okay, so I am going to run the program again. I don't have to recompile because it already works. So I'll start the program. Okay, so here's the first part again, and this is what we did with cin and cout. So let's put in the length and the width. I'll use a different length and width this time. Okay, so that was done with this upper part of the program. Then, when I hit any key to continue, we'll see the results from the printf and the scanf. Right. So now, it says enter real numbers for the length and the width. So that's coming from that printf statement you can see here. And in order to read it in, I will type in numbers again. So I'll use the same ones, 6 and 8. But this time, those are read by the scanf. And then the output is produced by that printf statement here. So you can see that now we get, with printf, the length and the width and the perimeter and the area. So two different techniques that you can use, but since the invention of C++, most people will choose to use the cin and cout functions as opposed to the printf and the scanf. So that's your introduction. We'll be doing a lot more with output formatting in the next video, but this introduces you to the cin statement and the cout statement, and it compares it to the printf and the scanf statements. So that's all I have for this video.